It's time for a return leg episode of Always Another Game, because today with me I have somebody who I've had the pleasure of being on her podcast, but actually she was a huge influence behind the title of this one, which was Always Another Game. Today with me I have Charleh Dickinson. Charleh, how's it going?
Oh, hey, Shaun, how are you?
I am very good. I'm excited to be on the other side this time.
I am nervous. I'm going to say it's far more nerve-wracking being the guest than it is the host.
You think so?
Yeah. I would rather be in the host seats. I think as we've been approaching this day. Yeah, I'm definitely a host rather than a guest.
Okay. See, I do enjoy the guest element. And I think sometimes with the hosting, once you get the first bit out of the way and you're just asking questions, that's the easy part, right? You just ask and sit back.
Exactly. I've got to do all the hard work now, and hopefully the hard work everybody will enjoy.
Yes, of course they will. And for anybody that is unaware, Charleh does have her own podcast, Charleh with Friends. And I'll get her to tell you a little bit about that shortly. But Charleh is a multi-sport achiever. She sent me her kind of CV of sport, and I was like, I don't even know where to start with this. So I'm going to let you handle that bit. You are a business owner. You are a current CrossFit athlete. Now, I think we mentioned it in your podcast. I had a small confession to make that initially when CrossFit came along, I was not a massive fan of it from my training perspective and how it was kind of originally guided as anybody can come and do CrossFit. And lots of people were kind of getting hurt and thinking like CrossFit was the answer. And my confession is I love CrossFit now. I love what it's become. I absolutely love the community vibe it's become. I love that it's the fact that it's become a sport. And it's given so many people a platform that love training, but actually wanted the athletic part. So there's my confession. When did we talk?
When did we talk? We talked when I was very much still traveling nomadic style. when I was around in Spain, living a really nice life. I have now moved to New York, New Jersey, where it's much colder. Not as nice. But I'm sure I'll head back there.
Yeah. So what's taken you there? Is that just business now?
So actually, my fiance works in New York, and so obviously I'm going to go follow him. And it was one of those wonderful things of life where I immediately started the train. I said, I'm going to go start traveling. I want to see more people. I want to see more of the world. I want to see what it has to offer. And somehow the path has led us to New York. It was not intentional, but here we are, and we love it. It's amazing.
I could think of worse places to be.
Yeah, I know, right? If you're going to start traveling, like, where's the destination that you didn't know was going to be? It's a pretty good one, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I've only ever been New York once, and we got a fascinating story about New Jersey. We ended up in a place called Irvington by complete accident, and apparently at one point that was the murder capital of America.
Yeah, I can see that.
We got on the wrong bus, and we lived to tell the tale, funnily enough. But maybe that's for another day. What I love everybody to know when I've got a brand new guest on is who is Charleh Dickinson?
Who is Charleh Dickinson? That is a really, really great question. Do I even know myself some days? Probably not. But here's what I do know about myself. Is from let's start from like the sporting side. Like I said, the collection of sports that I somehow acquired. And trust me, I don't believe in as in Pokemon trying to catch them all. Is it in life? It's all about how it happens. My main sport, growing up as a kid, was very much swimming. And the origins of that is my mum was also kind of an international level swimmer. And it's one of those things where you're just brought up in that world, like is just part of life, and you adopt it. But then as I was kind of growing up through the swimming, I knew I was very young. I had an eye for gymnastics, and I really could like see the appeal of it, and it's something that still kind of hits with my core quite a lot. But there was reasons why I came out of that sport quite early. So I had this gymnastics and swimming background. So as I continued my swimming career, a lot of PE teachers encouraged me to do athletics, and in a weird, wonderful way, because I could run and I could swim. That meant I was then able to do what's called modern pentathlon, which admittedly has more awareness these days because it's in the Olympics now. And it is the posh one where you go run, swim, fence, shoot, and horse ride. But when you're younger, how you start in the sport is it's a 1,000-meter run with a 100-meter swim, and I could swim and I could run. So you could see how that was. I didn't need to do extra training just to compete in this sport, and that got sprinkled in there for a number of years. And am I missing any sports? I eventually did a little bit of skiing as well as I got older. But as you can see, swimming was the main career that had these other spots of sports coming through. So that was like, if let's say the sporting, like kind of the sports side of me. And then the other side of me is obviously business, is basically my core of what I believe in. Why is I just love helping people to grow an idea. And usually when they come to me is they have a business idea and they want it to become like their new life or new economic engine is what I call it, like the where they get their money from, and how does that blossom over a 2 to 5, 10 year. And my skill set is very much marketing and sales. That's what I know. If you come to me, I'll teach you about marketing and sales, because that's how you're going to start growing the business. And then I'll introduce you to other people that you need to start building your team around that. And I'd say that's a really good kind of core of who I am.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, okay, so it's fascinating because how does anybody start sport? And you do get the ones where you've seen your mum swim and swim to a high level, and then you've got others more so like myself. Like my eldest has no interest in being on the ice at all, and I'm okay with that. You know, initially before kids, I was like, oh yeah, they're going to watch me play ice hockey and they're going to absolutely love it. They've not been around it because I retired before they really knew anything about it, and they have their own passions. They're starting to build their own passions. So with regards to kind of your mum and guiding you in swimming, was it something that you wanted to do, or was she like, okay, well, I swam, so I'd like to see you do the same?
With full honesty, I think it was definitely a mixture of things. My brother swam as well, and then because my mum was still competing in swimming, and then my dad didn't really swim when I was younger, does now. But he's always done kayaking, and that's his sport. Now the connection between swimming and kayaking is if you do open water swimming, you always need a kayaker as your safety guard to you as a swimmer. And that was the partnership and relationship between my parents. So there was one thing of, and I do believe in this, like you just saying, as a child, you do watch around your surroundings. And if I've got 3 of all of my family members have some participation in the sport, then also my mum is quite good at, if she thinks you can do something, she will keep pushing you until you do it. And she's got that little eye for people who she just spot and goes, you're definitely going to do this. And 9 out of 10 times it happens. So she's got that eye. So you've got that kind of supporting members behind you. And then from an early memory, I just loved swimming underwater. Like I was that kid on holiday where you would just find me in the pool underwater all the time. So it wasn't necessarily the actual swimming itself, but there was definitely me being in water. And still to this day, I'll go to Mark, my fiance, and be like, I need some water time. It's something like it's like something in my body that does crave it, to be like, I need to be next to a body of water, whether it's like on a boat, on a beach, in the pool, in the water, whatever it is. I'm like, there's some attraction to it at some state that I don't probably appreciate or understand myself.
Isn't that is a thing though? That is a thing, isn't it? Don't they say that you're supposed to be around a body of water every day to relax? There was like a big thing like last year. I remember there was lots of reels on it.
Yeah. And I with all of these things, when it comes to our bodies and being connected in with nature, I do think some people are attuned to more than others. So some people gravitate to the mountains, for example, and just gravitate to the earth a bit more. I just seem to be gravitated far more to the water. And I don't know what that is. It's just, like you said, as soon as you get to the water, you're like, oh, I feel so much calmer. But then also, we put another spin on this. I then spent my whole childhood and early teens in water. So my body has also been trained to be around it all the time. Same, like it just wants it.
Yeah, I guess it's probably the same with me with ice, though.
Yeah.
I went back on the ice this week just to help in some coaching, and that element of it, you just can't replicate. Like the no pressure of being there at a certain time to perform, and you got to eat your food to match it. I just put my skates on and went on, and I absolutely loved it. So I can see how when you kind of grow up in a certain area, how that can correlate. Now I'm a dad of a boy who's learning to swim. And he's at a phase where it's kind of like, where does it become into proper swimming, like competing, versus just learning to swim? Do you remember that far back where you're like, yeah, I actually want to learn and race now and do this properly?
It's a good question, because I've come at it slightly two angles, because I did swimming coaching as well. So I was able to get that external lens of watching kids kind of go through my own journey. I don't think it was a conscious decision to I'm going to go to the Olympics, or I'm going to be like this competitively race, really take it into the sport. I do think it was a natural thing of my mum would have put me into a couple of races, some either in the club, kind of in-house kind of thing, or maybe it was just like a little baby thing. I remember getting driven to Wrexham. This is probably a bit of a rogue story, but I do remember at early age get driven to Wrexham, and I think there's a thing called the Speedo League, where it's all the clubs around the surrounding areas do these little competitions. So I think it really was, I was put into a competition. I was like, oh, I like winning,
Okay. Yeah.
I like that feeling. And I can say I was fortunate enough that I wouldn't say, I think there was an element of I did have the natural ability, but then I've also swam a lot as a kid, as a small child. So I would have had a slight advantage over other kids, because I just would have been swimming with my mum. I would have been swimming on a holiday. I would have been swimming a lot more volume from a smaller age. So then it meant that I got a few wins from an early age, and I was like, oh, I like this feeling. And I would keep going. And I do think, having them watched from a coach's perspective, there's a few ages where you see kids drop off in swimming. And that's from the ages about 4 to 5, then it's about 7 to 8, and then it's about the 13 to 14. And you can and you can already, just me telling you some of these ages, you go, well, these are very much child developmental ages. Because there are certain things that are happening in their life at the time, and it puts pressure on to, do you really love it enough? Do you care about this enough for it to be a part of your life? And I'm slightly simplifying and generalizing, but I can only tell you from my experience, just these waves of people as they, I've kind of coached them up.
Yeah. Do you know what it was for you then that pushed you through those phases? Because you've mentioned that your mum had a keen eye for talent. You mentioned the O word. You mentioned Olympics. You weren't just a swimming pool on holiday swimmer. Yeah. You've got a bit of a story about the kind of the Olympics there. So what was it that got you through those phases of potential where other kids were dropping out? And, tell us how far it actually went.
So if I'll contextualize the, what it's like. So you're, between the ages of 10 and 20, it's actually amazing how much it doesn't differentiate too much between those ages. You're at a point where you're you're in the pool at 6 a.m. I'd love to say I was in the pool at 5:30 a.m., but I was traditionally always late. I will be honest. So you're in the pool for a couple hours every morning. apart from Sunday and Thursday. So every morning. And then evening, you're there every single day apart from Sunday. And on Thursdays, you've also got, Thursdays and Tuesdays, you've also got land training. So you've got like kind of HIIT style, accessory style training for an hour. So 2 times a week as well. Now, it's not hard to do the maths on that. It's about 4 to 5 hours of training every single day. And you've got school work on top of that. And you're trying to figure out how to be a child, a kid on it.
Yeah.
So that's, that's a lot. But admittedly, you don't think it's a lot because it's something that you've always that's what you've only ever known. So, it's not as big in a person's head as you think. And then actually what it always boils down to is your environment. So I had my mom who was always very, very, very encouraging and supportive. Literally drove me to every competition, drove me to training, was just always there, driving it. And I'd say I also remember my school environment, particularly the one I went to in Liverpool. I had the head teacher, the PE teacher, I had classmates, I had my friends' parents. They were all just like, you're going to the Olympics. Like, we believe that you can go to the Olympics. And that's so powerful when you're like 10, 11 years old. Because in your head, it's like, I could go to the Olympics. That would be cool.
Yeah.
But it's that ideation to, you go through the process as a person. It goes from ideation to actually kind of going, oh, maybe I could do this, to, okay, what do I need to do this? And there are stages on how you can believe you'll be able to do something. And then finally, it's actually the pool itself. You've got your coach who's always then teaching you and training you through. You're going to England talent camps. You're going to various different camps with all of these Olympians showing like how they did it. So you've got that encouragement. And then finally, there is your team. And this is something that you definitely resonate with, is you're with this team through this journey together. Even though it's an individual sport, you've got to remember there's 8 to 10 of you, about 8 to 10 of you, or 5 to 8 of you per lane. And you're with them for this huge amount of time. And there's a running joke in swimming that you do one set, you have a 5-second talk, do one set, you have a 5-second talk. So you end up you're talking to everybody throughout the whole training period.
Yeah.
Even if it's slightly broken. And then you spend all this time in the changing rooms with them as well. There's that bond, there's that camaraderie, there's that support. And then they'll tell you if you're slacking. They'll tell you if you're not working hard enough, or they'll tell you when like you've done an amazing achievement, and so that's why I say environment, I think, is if you can nail that, the rest is just mechanical.
Yeah. You're right, because you show me a sport that doesn't have a team element. I've spoken to boxers, kickboxers, that it's one-on-one. No, it's not. You have a coach and your other fighters in your gym, and other people that you have, and your parents. You always have an environment around you, and you're right. If you've got the right environment, and I love the fact that your school was so supportive, and not only just supportive, they actually believed. For me, I've mentioned a few times on the podcast, I was told to aim my sights lower when I said I wanted to play in the NHL. Aim your sights lower. And I look back now, and okay, I may have never made it, but there was points in my career where I outscored players in tournaments that now play in the NHL. So yes, there's loads of different factors that come into play, but there's a fine line, isn't there, between believing and almost like believing the hype, because you can go the other way. You can go into that arrogant territory where I was like, well, everyone's saying I'm great, so what's the point? What do you feel kept you grounded?
Oh, good question. Good question, actually. There's, brutal honesty. I think there was times where I wasn't grounded. I wouldn't say I wasn't immune for that either. Like, there was definitely times where I was like, I think that's a good question. I think there was a good times I got a good clip around the ear to be like, we're not going to put up with that behavior either. Like you might be doing well, but like you've still got you've still got a long way to go, kid, kind of mentality.
Was that parents or coaches or both?
I think everybody. I think
Yeah.
I had quite grounding people around me. Certainly my dad won't tolerate any of that. You know, he's incredibly grounded. And then coaches as well. Like you'll probably resonate as well. It's like any prima donna behavior in a team, that gets kicked out of you straight away because they haven't got time for it. They don't get paid for it either. But like,
well, we called that a bad egg.
Yeah, a bad egg.
You had a bad egg in the room. You know, it stinks. It stinks out of the room. Nobody wants to be there. You know, that environment, it's vital, isn't it? And that goes across the board. So
yeah, and to just then lead up to the journey. So the kind of bombshell is I didn't get to the Olympics. No, I didn't get there. And I got so close. I got to the Olympic trials, and I got within the Olympic trials as well. There's levels. So I got to semi-finals. And then if you look back at that run up to it, I had a series of really good wins, medals at championships and things. But then also there was a few like injuries in there as well, and there was the few things that weren't quite right because I was also buckling under the pressure a bit, you know. And so when you look back, it's amazing because you get 2020 vision, looking back and going, "Ooh, I just known this information that I know now into then." There's a few things that I would do differently, but these all have hindsight is a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing. But these all have massive, massive parallels to business as well. And you know, this is something that we've connected over.
Well, because that's where it takes you now, right? So what was it with the Olympics? Was it just I know you said injuries and stuff, but you said you got to the semis. Was it just that the speed wasn't there on the day, or did you just kind of reach a peak point? What was the
performance on the day? Performance on the day was great. I did one of a. It wasn't a PB or PR or anything. It was a solid time. It was a good performance. I believe from memory. Memory it gets a bit hazy these days. Believe from memory, I only missed out by like 0.1 of a second or 0.2 of a second to go through the next round. But that's how tight swimming is. There's packs of people, and you're trying to beat everybody with these 0 points of a decimal, you know. And I think it was just an unfortunate kind of one of those just scenarios that just didn't quite, you know, on the day. But it was that thing of like I was with a weird year where there was like 4 or 5 of us who were just seemed to be on this different level of swimming and caliber, and weirdly, all of them either went to the Commonwealths, or went to the Olympics, you know, onto that squad team, and I was probably the only one that didn't. that was the reality check, really. Yeah. But you don't know you're of that caliber at the time because you're going through that journey, and those are the ones who stuck at it, like literally stuck at it, and got to the goal in the end.
How come you stopped?
I got to an age because I kind of was stopping around that 18, 19 age, where you're going through many life changes at that point as well. You've like finished GCSEs, you're doing college. People are asking you a lot about a lot of people are asking you about your future, what you're going to do. A lot of people who get selected for the Olympics for swimming is around 18, 19, 20. And the only thing I really remember was I just didn't love it. I just remember this feeling of I could clearly be very good at swimming, but I could just watch other people. They just loved it more than me. Yeah, that was it. They just loved it more than me, and I just really at my core was just like I don't actually care as much as they do, and that really bothered. That really bothered me. But it was enough for me to be like, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop this. I'm going to stop doing this sport. I'm going to stop even engaging in the idea of the Olympics. And I will tell you, I've had to make some hard decisions in my life, but that it makes the top 5 for sure.
Okay.
Really does make the top five, which might sound ridiculous to some people, but it's more than just saying, hey, I'm stopping this sport. It's saying, hey, I'm not going to hang out with my friends every day. Hey, I'm saying goodbye to my support system every single day. I'm saying goodbye to my life, my routine, and I'm stepping into a world where I don't know what I'm going to do for exercise. Well, it wasn't even exercise. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do for sport. Who do I hang out with? What do I do with all this free time? Do I concentrate on work now? Yeah, I'm only spinning out the top questions, but that's also terrifying. But the position I'm in, that was less terrifying than the position if I stayed in the position that I was. Like, and ultimately, that is when people make the biggest change. And I'll tell you, I didn't deal well for the first year, and it's quite common for swimmers to not deal well for the first year when they come out of swimming, because they're like, I don't know who I am. I don't know what my identity is anymore, because my identity was always the swimmer that was going to the Olympics. So yeah, I'm saying goodbye to my identity as well. So I've got to figure that out. I got to figure out, like, actually what things do I like? You know, I mean, it just spun out all these questions, and I think it took a few years, if I'm being honest. The first year was the hardest, and then it took a few years to kind of go, okay, what is it that I do like? What is it that I love? And where do I go from there? And well, the first decision I made was I'm going to go start a business.
Yeah, I think there's so, like, I'm nodding along because everything you're saying there is exactly how I felt with retirement. It's such a strange feeling because it's something that you've done for so long. For many people, it's a decade, if not decades. It's a long time, and you say it does become part of your identity. And I was exactly the same as you. I was sitting on the coach, and I just didn't want to be there. Everybody else is laughing and joking and playing games, and I'm just like, we nearly home, or what time do we get to the game? Can I get back? I'll be back at this time tonight. And I had lost the love for it. But even then, even when you lose the love, it's so hard to just go, yeah, I'm done, and walk away. Because it's exactly the same. I was like, I've always trained this way. Now what do I do? What do I train for?
Yeah. I had no idea.
It's a strange phase.
No, I did. I no idea how to train. I know, like I said, I say the word exercise because it's always like, what's the difference between exercise and training? Well, it's very much a mentality thing on how you're approaching a physical activity. And I didn't know how to exercise. Like, why would you just turn up? Why? I don't think I don't. I still don't know how to exercise, if I'm honest. Like, how do you just turn up and just do some activity with no direction or vision? I don't get it. My brain just doesn't comprehend it. And it's no judgment on knocking on everybody else. It's just my brain's wired to be like, right, where are we going? Where's this journey heading?
Yeah, but I guess that's why it's led you down this route now of becoming a CrossFit athlete. Yeah. But before you came across that, you were about to say that you then fell into business. So this phase between retiring and being lost, what was kind of next for you?
Yeah, well, I did a few extra complications again. So there was that big decision. I also, I can throw it in there because it always comes in. I also saw the English channel at the same time as well. Again, it was one of those things where my mum had done it when I was about 10, 11. And she just came to me one summer, like this kind of summer, and she was like, hey, an opportunity's come up. Do you want to swim the channel? And I was like, yeah, why not? It's not like, it's like I don't need to do any extra training for something. I'm already doing the volume, already doing the thing. Yeah, how hard could it be? Admittedly, that statement has followed me around for life. the good and the bad. This one was kind of somewhere in the grey because it was good. I've got that achievement. It was a really, really good experience. And I do recommend it to people who are swimmers to have a go and really train for it. But I also picked up a really bad stomach infection, which then basically led to a whole bunch of allergies and intolerances and autoimmune problems. I mean, I already had the autoimmune problems, but they were then rather than my body being able to cope with them, I just couldn't cope with them anymore, and I still can't cope with them.
Wow.
So I had then a new problem on my plate, that I couldn't eat any of the same food that I've always eaten. Like, I can't eat gluten, I can't eat dairy, I can't eat cocoa powder, mushrooms, like all this new stuff that I was like, okay, I've got to deal with this now. And it just exploded a whole new world for me, because it was like the internet was showing me stuff around paleo and like lifestyles and habit, because at the same time, this is what was all exploding in America. I was like on this first wave of like, what's paleo? Like, how should we be eating for our evolutionary diet? And it really opened my eyes to, actually, like, I'm not the only one in this position who's struggling with allergies or food intolerances. But there was such little UK information at the time. I was like, well, I can do something about that. Like, I don't know. I didn't have any skills. I couldn't write, couldn't do social media. If we want to put it like a time point, Instagram had just launched. This is how long ago.
I don't even remember that.
This is kind of this. It's not pre-Instagram, but it's at the start of Instagram. You know, I started on allrecipes.co.uk because that was the only real platform, and I started on Bebo because like
I remember Bebo.
You know, these are the platforms that I was like working with here. But it was like, it was something. It was just like, I can help other people, and then that developed into creating a free from brownie made from really supernatural ingredients that is actually stupidly delicious. And that was the point of it. It was just like, well, okay, you didn't have to forgo all these tasty treats just because you had all of these different allergies out there. The market just hadn't kept up yet. And I saw an opportunity, and I just kind of seized it with kind of blind naivety, because there was no skills. There was like no experience, no background. It was just like, I see a gap, I'm going to fill this gap, and I'll figure it out along the way. That was it. There was more to it.
It's crazy, isn't it? Because especially with like intolerances and allergies and things, like, it's a lot of, you can't have this, and it's that negative mindset that comes along with it. Whereas when I've worked with a client with it, it's like, okay, yeah, but what can we have? Let's start looking at more of what we can. And you kind of took that leap to shift the mindset. Do you feel like there was an element there, maybe from your parents with that kind of mindset, the sporting, that you kind of looked at it at the positive light?
No, I think it's a combo. I say I sit in a fortunate camp where I've watched my parents work so hard, and I've just seen, I don't know if you consciously see them overcoming things, but I think you do pick up on a tenaciousness from your parents. Both my parents have that. But then also, if we draw parallels between sports and business, when you're learning, let's stick with swimming today, but this applies to any sport. In order to perform a movement, you have to break down the movement, and you have to work out all of the different details, and then you have to keep practicing all the different details until you get to the destination of what is that perfect movement pattern that you're then performing for that sport. And I mention that because in that journey, you're not going to get it right. You're going to fail miserably. Things are going to be hard. You're going to be frustrated. And you then have to learn on how do you keep overcoming that. And that's then the skill that you learn is, if I've just been constantly taught for my whole life, okay, here's the problem. This is how we break it down, and this is how we overcome it. Well, then that's going to be my mentality when I approach another challenge in my life that's then presented to me. Mine just happened to be, okay, you now can't eat all of these foods. There's no literature on the internet to how you solve this problem, but other people are also thriving with a similar background, so there is something there. So you can't. There is a solution that you can be going for. You just don't know what that is yet. So you just have to go and figure it out.
I think that's why the perfect time to drop it in, why you resonated with the title so much, The Always Another Game. because I mentioned that in the talk that we did together, and it is just that, it's that resilient mindset that you build up over these years, these decades, and then when things do come up, you have that knowledge, ability, resilience already in you, that it's almost automatic. Sometimes you might just need a nudge or somebody to remind you, but those habits, those skills, they don't go anywhere. They are there for you to bring on at points where you are at your lowest. How long did it take you though? How long were you swimming for in the channel?
11 hours and 31 minutes and 54 seconds.
And that's consistent?
Yeah. Start at midnight. In the dark, dirty side of England. And I say that because it's filth. It's actually filthy on our side. And then you get onto the French side, and admittedly, because we started at midnight, it was the sunrise, with the French blue waters, and it was like the first half was miserable, second half was serene. It was lovely. Watch the, at one point though, I would love telling the story because it just freaked me out. I was swimming on the French side. You're following a boat, and from the boat, all I could see is these like waving hands. So I put my head up just to be like, what's going on? Me thinking it was like a shark or something, or a jellyfish or whatever. Anyway, the shouting dolphin, because the dolphin was like about, I think it was like a meter to my left.
No way.
Trying to like swim next to me. So I was trying to see this dolphin at the same time. So I'd say that's why I recommend it to people too, if you can, and something that's on your path to go and do the channel. But it's not something for the light-hearted either.
No, but start on the English side if you're going to do it.
You have to. Legally, you have to.
Okay.
You're not allowed to. You're not allowed to go from the French to the English.
Okay. It sounds like the better way. Get the hard stuff out of the way first and have the nice stuff on the other side.
Trust me, for that amount of time, yes, it was.
But no, I love the story there. How it's almost like accidental intent, and I think that's how life works. Is that you constantly put in the work and you network and you reach out, and you never really know what is going to happen. But then you just fall on stuff, and you fell on this first business by, in a sense, complete accident. You had no idea this was good. This was going to be a thing. Where did it take you next?
Yeah, it's good. Just a few points just from what you're saying. I still think I am learning what resilience is. I think that's one thing you keep learning, because the challenges look differently and look bigger, or you still kind of work your way through that. Then where the food business, I mean, ironically, you hear all these gurus say, gotta learn from your mistakes the first time. I'm not gonna lie, I think it took me two times this time, because I got to the end of the food business, and I was like, I just don't love it.
Okay, I'm getting a pattern here.
So you see a pattern here. Admittedly, now I have learned. I've learned this. I have learned this one now. But yeah, it was a combo of different things. I'd discovered through the journey that I didn't quite love it for the right reasons. I did love it. I'm joking a little bit. I did love it. I just didn't love it for the right reasons. And it was just before Brexit. I should say just on around Brexit, the announcement, basically say that we were leaving the EU. And then there was a few other reasons. It was because the factory was in Ireland, it had a base on operations kind of in Sheffield. I felt as a person that it was constraining me. And, again, hindsight, it's realized that actually some of my core values is I love flexibility, and I love kind of options, and it wasn't giving me that because it was forcing me to different locations, and it wasn't big enough where I could just hand it off to people to give me the flexibility at the time. But then what it presented to me was actually 90% of my job in that business was doing marketing and sales. And I was like, oh, I actually really love doing the marketing and sales in that side of things. And I love the mechanism. I used to love the mechanisms on how do you do the operations and the systems of a business that enables you to grow and give you more revenue and XYZ. And again, and that was another that was up there in the top 5 of painful decisions. It's always that decision to say, I'm going to stop this now because I think this is the right decision to do. And I remember it being really, really painful. And exactly the same feeling. Again, I'd put my identity back into this business, and because it's my first business, so I really personally felt it. My identity was in it, and I just went through this whole same story all over again. And because I think it was a good thing that I kind of went through exactly the same scenario of the swimming, asking all of these questions. What do I love? What do I want? But I was then re-asking in it from a career, like work point of view. It's like, where do I go? And that's how then I started the digital agency. That's how the marketing, coaching and consultancy. That's how that started.
Yeah. And that's the thing, and this is what I wanted to get across with the podcast as well, is that when you do play sport or do anything, a big part of it is you've got to love it. You've got to have the passion for it. Otherwise, it's going to cause more problems than it does good things for you. Yet also through conversations with people like yourself, you find a love. You find it. As long as you continue, and that whether you go into coaching in marketing instead of coaching swimming, it's the same elements. You can find something you're passionate about. And your story there has been loved it, lost the love, loved it, lost the love. Are you now in a phase of loving what you do? Can you see any signs of what you've learned from the past, or do you feel like you're over that hurdle?
Yeah, there's a few things that are now really stick with me, and let's call them guiding goalposts, because you'll still kind of fall back to the mean a little bit and fall back to some old habits, and you've got to kind of bring yourself back to center a bit. And that is, there's one tip where I know there is a vision and direction that I want to go. There is a lifestyle that I want, and that is, I love to travel. I love to travel, but I love to travel kind of around the sporting CrossFit community. So there's a style of traveling that I like. I like kind of a work day that I like, and options available to me. So I spent the last year being really super productive in airports and on planes, and I've discovered that I get a lot of work done that day. Because then it opens up an opportunity to then sit on a beach another day and have far more balance in this, like say, this nomadic lifestyle that really does fit with my core. And I keep saying my core because it's like, what is intrinsically, what things do I value, and then how does that like go into like what activities do I like? And what I've kind of now learned is, as long as I know I've got a vision and I've got a goal, sometimes I won't get what I originally wanted or intended to get. But actually, I'd say 9 out of 10 times, I end up getting something better that I couldn't have imagined myself. Now, I don't know if that's just something, again, because I've been taught this kind of realistic optimism, or if it's just, again, it's another learned behavior, or I'm very good at recognizing patterns. It was just a pattern that I've just then picked up on, or want to pick up on, I should say. Like my bias is like, we'll always pick up on and say, hey, I didn't get this thing. It was really, really bad. But actually, because this thing happened, I got something 10 times better. And I just know when the bad things happen, I just have to wait it out, and I just have to wait for that next game. It's like saying, we're just going to, as long as you will have learned something in one game where you're going, I should not have done that. Went to the next game. Okay, this was even better than the last one. It was worth it.
Yeah. Because I think you used the saying actually you said to me after the episode we recorded that you actually used that in one of your CrossFit events, that there's always another event, there's always another one. And there's crossovers, and I love the saying, your values and visions drive every decision. And if you stay true to that, like you said, there is something better coming.
Oh, every time because I now have coaches around me, I'm a big believer in coaches, and I speak to my coaches and I'm saying, I have these negative things happening around me, because that's life. I've got one particular coach. He's like, okay, but what are your values around here, and like, are they aligning with them? To give you an example, in training in CrossFit, these are the parallels here. I love the gymnastics because it's technical. I love the weightlifting because it's technical. I love going on long bike rides and long running runs because that's my meditation time. So I have different things that I gain out of CrossFit depending on kind of what I want from it. But actually, the competition stuff doesn't sit that high for me. So you'll actually rarely find me doing a competition unless it's with people. Because I get so much more enjoyment. I just don't get enjoyment doing it by myself or individually, but I get so much enjoyment doing it with a team, because it's at least that camaraderie, which is something I value. I value that like supportive element of it. So if you're going to see me in a team, you're going to see me in competition. It's no likely it's going to be into a competition. But then and that's actually against the decision of a lot of other people, because a lot of other people want to encourage me to do more competitions and to do individual competitions. But I know it's just so against my values. It's probably not going to happen, because I'm going to fall out of love of it. I'm going to hate it, and then I'm going to hate the sport, and I don't want that, because actually the CrossFit is so multifaceted in how it could benefit you. I know which parts of CrossFit actually I want to engage in and how I approach it because of what I believe in, or what my values are.
And also, it more because you work in it as well. Is that right?
I do. I sit. It started out as a hobby. It really did start out as a hobby, just to make some friends in Sheffield when I was at uni. And then once you've been in a sport long enough, because it's like 8 years now I've been doing CrossFit. I don't know where that time's gone. And I still feel like I'm learning. The opportunity came up a couple of years ago to work into the sport, because what happens is a lot of people in CrossFit, they start it, they fall in love with it, and they become a CrossFit coach. And again, CrossFit coaching didn't align in with like my path as a career, and it didn't align with what I wanted to do, or my skill sets, or how I could really offer help and support. So when I got offered to be head of marketing for a CrossFit brand, I was like, this is perfect. This fits all my little bit of ikigai in my lifestyle, my remoteness, my style of work, how I can help, what I can do, how I can be a part of the sport. And I was like, these opportunities don't land on your desk every day. And I was just like, I didn't know how I was going to do it, because I was running had my own business, and I was doing obviously training to get as best as I could in CrossFit. Like, how was I going to fit this whole new thing into my life? But I was like, somehow I've made it work, and it was one of the best decisions.
Yeah, it is. When you said it a second ago, it falls into place, doesn't it? And it did for you. It hasn't come without its challenges. You were saying beforehand that I think you've done well today, but you said you were pretty tired. But then again, if you love what you do, it becomes a lot easier.
Yeah. So exactly, and this is, this comes to this whole narrative around balance. So again, for context, yesterday, started work from like 7:30 till 12, doing my agency work. Forced myself to have a break. So that's another story for another day. And then from 3 till about 10 midnight, we're doing the CrossFit Open announcement. So we're making a huge amount of YouTube videos and blog articles and social media posts and any material to help CrossFit athletes get better at the CrossFit Open. And we have to do it we start at 3:00, and it's how fast can you get everything done. And like I said, it's another 8-hour work day under intense pressure. And then not only that, it's the volume of people that it goes to. So it's about 3 million people on social media. It's another 100, 200,000 people on the website, another 100, 200,000 on the YouTube. It's like a lot of people. And if you make any mistake, they will call you out on it. And it's a different kind of pressure, because mistakes do happen. And we're talking like a slight spelling mistake, guys. We're not, these are tiny things. What I think are like tiny things. That you have, there's no room. You literally have to be perfect under an intense pressure, and it's a different game. And it's mentally exhausting. So yeah, I have woken up this morning like we call it the hockey hangover, or we're going to call it the work hangover today.
Yeah. It's fascinating, because you've given us some really big insights today, exactly what the podcast is all about. You've talked about working under intense pressure. Anybody that knows CrossFit and the competitive nature of it, it's not for the lighthearted. Like, it's insane, the stuff that they get you to do, intensity wise and complexity wise. It's insane. You swum the English Channel. You were so close to the Olympics, and you were putting in 5-hour days, etc. Yeah, a little while ago you said you're still learning resilience. Some people would be sitting here today going, what is she going on about? Like, that is more resilient than I could even dream about. What do you think that is, that you're still able to see, the learning part of it and the progressive part?
I see, this is very much, I wouldn't just put this to work or sports, but I have a mentality of, when you stop learning, you might as well stop with life. Like, it's very morbid to say that, because when you get to that point where you give up on learning, it will put so many negative walls and closedness around you as a person. It stops you to opportunities. It stops you from everything, literally. And there's too much new information coming through technology, through scientists, through strategists, through you can name it. All these experts. So it would be really arrogant to think, like, I've completed it, mate.
Yeah. There's a saying I love. I watched the Kanye West documentary ages ago, but Pharrell said to him really early on in his journeys, he said, when everybody's telling you that you're great, doubt them. And I think that keeps you grounded a little bit. It's so easy to get all this noise like you had at school and everything like that. They were telling you, how great you were. It's very easy to go the other way. And if you can kind of keep that element of embracing learning and personal development and things like that, I think, like you said, you're on to a winner. You never know where it's going to take you if you keep the doors open.
Because I can't remember the name of the curve. You first start out with a level of confidence. Your confidence skyrockets early ages, because you think, oh, I've got this, and then you go down, massive to the massive bottom, to be like, I really don't know this. And this is what we talk about, the imposter syndrome for people in businesses. And then you just carry on learning, and you get the experience, and eventually actually you become the expert without you knowing, because you've just been on this learning momentum track. And I do apply that to quite everything. Like my allergies, I'm still learning about. CrossFit, still learning about it. Marketing, sales, business, like I'm just learning about something every single day. But I do caveat this a little bit. There's one thing learning it, and then there's applying it, and having those systems in your life to just incrementally 1% a day to apply it. Like, I think like that's, I'd say, what's carried me through the most, rather than just sort of like saying it. It's like, okay, now how can I implement it?
Is there any tip that you could give somebody that might be in that place at the moment that is struggling with application, that you could kind of give them to use?
Yeah. Admittedly, I'm going to come to CrossFit on this, because this is one of the easiest things to kind of visualize for people. So let's say there's a really hard, complex movement like bar muscle ups, for example. And this could be also applied to how do I generate more leads? It's traditionally something most people deal with the most, and most businesses are in a lead acquisition phase. So you've got this really this challenge ahead of you, and there's always it just goes back to the resilience. It's because they kind of hit a wall. They go, I can't do this, so they stop, or they get a little bit, and then they might pick it up again and do a little bit more, kind of get stuck, and they stop. It's the stopping part, but it's rather than it's going, okay, grounding yourself to say, okay, at the moment, all I can do is hang off the rig, or all I can do is take a YouTube, watch a YouTube video on meta advertising, for example. It's just knowing where you are at the moment and going, okay, if I just do 10 minutes a day or 5 minutes a day or even 30 seconds a day, let's make this habit so goddamn easy and so goddamn convenient for the person to start off with, because then you win. It's like, I did my 30 seconds today. Great. Tomorrow, I was like, I'm gonna do it. You end up doing because you got there and you did that 30 seconds, you tend to do 5 minutes. And because you did that, and then tomorrow you'll be like, well, I did the 5 minutes, I'll just do 5 minutes again. Suddenly it's like 10 minutes. And because you're just doing it every single day, you're only doing a little part of it, and it slowly just builds up and builds up. I didn't start off in CrossFit doing how many hours do I do a week? The 16 hours of training I do a week. Wow. I started off with 3, and there is days where I'm like, I really don't feel like training today, but I just know if I go to the gym, which admittedly I've always lived on the same street as, and there's a reason for that, because it's convenience. I live next to the gym purposefully. Is that I'll get there and I'll sit on the bike, and I just know I'll sit on the bike for 10 minutes if I don't feel like it. And 9 out of 10 times I go and do my training. There has been scenarios, and I will say, where I've got there, I've done my 10 minutes on the bike, I've chatted to people for 20 minutes, and then I've gone home. And that was also okay, because it was clearly my body signaling to me to be like, today is not the day, because you got there, you spoke to people, you hung around for half an hour, and you still didn't do it. But that happens once a year, whereas the 100 other training sessions I didn't feel like doing, but I got there and then I got into it later. That was actually that's where the winners make the progress.
Yeah. And you said the word winning. You loved winning. You found that out when you started competing, and just even down to that point where you do your 30 seconds or your 5 minutes, or you do the workout that you didn't think that you were going to do because you showed up. Our brain loves those wins, and we need to celebrate them and pat them on the back a lot more.
Exactly. I do. I really love celebrating little wins, the small wins, and the small stuff. That's what I hope people know me for. The thing, obviously, when something big happens, I'll have a big squeal, and but actually 9 out of 10 times it's a lot of the small stuff that I get really excited about. And the small stuff is somebody giving me a free banana or a free chocolate bar at the end of the training session.
It was post-workout carbs.
Yeah, post-workout carbs, exactly. But it was free. And I'm like, oh.
I like this squeal. We need to hear this more. Okay, so what's next? What's next for you?
Okay, so the stuff that's going on in my life at the moment is, CrossFit is become my world, in the sense for my sporting, and we're in the CrossFit Open, so obviously going through that at the moment, and because I sit around 100, I think it's 150th in Europe. I've got some goals to kind of be top 10 UK and top 100 in Europe, and sit around there and see if there's some cool opportunities to do with other people in the CrossFit world. And I don't know what that collaboration would look like. I'm just going to keep that. I kind of keep that open. That's the thing that I want. From a business point of view, we've got the the marketing agency that's thriving out of Manchester, and I help a lot of people through what's called fractional CMO work, which is really coming into teams and helping them to come together to drive and grow sales and their marketing. And the really big things that I've got coming up over the next year is because I'm not busy enough, I've got 2 other businesses that are launching. One is a app, a SaaS product that we've been developing for the last 3 years, which helps small businesses to get the most MBA level comprehensive marketing strategy at an affordable price. And rather than it taking an expert to do it in 3 months, we can drill it down into 3 hours. And it's really there to leverage and help small businesses get the knowledge and direction and vision, and the app is called Vision, to get the foundations right, to then start the business, so that when times do get tough in a business, they at least can fall back to their systems, fall back to their foundations, back to their habits, and get over more hurdles that might have ordinarily stopped them in the past. So that's really, and that's going to be, we're driving through universities. So a lot of people who get funding through incubators at universities will then have access to that app. And then I won't mention it today, but I do have another business bubbling that will come into fruition in 2025. That's the other thing we've not mentioned today, is I do think in like, what's the next 10 years look like? I feel like I've done a phase from the last 10 years, because admittedly I am 30 this year.
Spring chicken.
I know.
Spring chicken.
But you get to 30, again, you get to 30, you start asking these questions. It's like, what does the future look like? What do things do I want? And admittedly, then I'm asking all the same questions again, but they're not as catastrophic as they were when I was 25 or when I was 19.
Yeah.
Or, now it's like, right, okay, I've got all of these exciting opportunities in place and I love, and then I've got working out what the mechanism is, and the final kind of point is, how do I balance all of this so that I still strive towards those goals, but then I don't break myself as a human being.
Yeah.
What does that look like? And these are kind of the same but different questions.
Always learning.
Yeah, exactly.
Where can people find you if anybody wants to follow your business journey? I know you have a heavy CrossFit account as well with a lot of your training. If they want to listen to your podcast, where can they find you?
Yeah, it's really dead easy to find me. The best places is on my LinkedIn. You'll tend to get a lot more of my business resources, lead magnets, just general articles, and then the podcast, that's where it's mainly pushed out through. Like you said, you can get me on the podcast. The Instagram is Charleh with Friends. I push out a bunch of different clips of experts from around the world in their subject matter. So again, we can just carry on learning. And then if you're inclined to follow CrossFit content or travel content, yes, you can find me on Instagram at Charleh Dickinson. Charleh Dickinson. Now I spell my name weird. It is Charleh with Leh. So it's not too hard to find me. It's
memorable. That's how I look at it.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I love it, and even with the CrossFit, it's just impressive. It's just even if you're not into it, it's just inspirational what is actually possible to do with your body as well. And yeah, I was episode 1 actually on your podcast, so do go and check that out as well. So awesome! Thank you so much for coming in and sharing your story and chatting with us today. I've learned a lot there. I've had a lot of fun, so I hope you have too.
Oh, good. Have a great day, everybody.
Yes, thank you. And as I like to always remind everybody, there is always another game. Take care.